Hi, my name is Angie Whitehurst, and your name is?
Mike, Burke, Kirby.
Nice to meet you.
I was Kirby and my wife was Burke, and we both changed our names. You didn't ask that, sorry.
No, that's interesting. I'm glad you're here. Thank you for the story. We'll ask you some more about that. Our question today is, everyone has something they have worked on in their life. What is something valuable you have contributed to and can share with others? And when thinking about the work you have done in your life thus far, what are you proud of? What made you happy? What can you point to?
Well, I'm at the National Endowment for the Arts, and I've done a number of things there. But one of the things I'm most proud of is when I worked on the Hill, and we recruited Hill staffers to work on campaigns, and we trained them to get out the vote. We worked with 30 different states. We had about 300 of them. We did this several times, at least 300 in several presidential campaigns, but these were coordinated campaigns, so it was governors, senators, members of Congress. We trained them to do the get out the vote. We also trained them how to do that stuff themselves, how to organize it, how to recruit people, how to write scripts, how to find the money to place people and stuff like that. So it wasn't just getting it, recruiting them and getting in the field. It was broader than that in terms of being able to have them know what we knew about how to go out and work in lots of different places.
Are you in touch with any of your trainees?
Several of them, yes. In fact, there's one who may be here tonight. This goes a little earlier. I worked with her when she was at Georgetown on the Carter campaign. And she moved out to the country, and now she's back in Arlington. She may well be here tonight. And I'll be happy to see her because she's one of the people that we kind of trained and got involved in and became, kind of a life. I'm not sure it was just me that gave her the lifetime commitment. Obviously, she didn't walk in the door from nowhere. But we spent a lot of time dealing with younger people and getting them involved, making them understand that they could get involved in the system and change things. They could make things happen.
About being elected?
No, you don't have to be elected.
That's my point.
No, I ran for office once, and after 3 days I said, God, I never want to do this again in my life. But my first campaign was actually 1959. So I've worked in a lot of campaigns. And I spent 10 years working on the Hill as a legislative staffer and a committee staff director for a committee. But I really admire the people who run for office, and I could never do it myself. I have a way of screwing up debates. I mean, I would get into the first debate, and within 15 minutes I'd be finished. I would have undercut myself. I don't know why that is. I figured that out when I was in high school. But I have an ability to undercut myself in a debate that just has no bottom to it. So that's not where I go. But the people who do that, who are really good at it. Then Don Beyer is one.
You train people to do that scripting, though.
Yeah.
You don't like to do
No. I mean, I set up events and then I never show up to hear them speak. But maybe they do a good job. They keep getting. When I first moved to Fairfax County, that was a very Republican area. We had 2 Republican congressmen. It was mostly Republican supervisors and state legislators, and a lot of people put their shoulder to the wheel to make Virginia blue. In fact, quite a few of us from Madison, Wisconsin, that we had all gone to school there, including Chuck Robb and Marcia Jay and the Marshalls. I mean, we used to have Rose Bowl parties for them. And it's weird that now we made Virginia look like Madison, Wisconsin, and now Wisconsin has gone red. So I don't...
it reverse, yes. And that's exciting.
Well, it will come back. I mean, the stuff about voting rights That fight has been going on since they wrote the Constitution. I mean, they originally said black people in the South were going to count for 10% and they weren't going to get to vote. So you had all these white people coming up from the South and voting in Congress, representing black people, but not really voting for them. And for a few years after the Civil War, they were allowed to vote, and then they took their votes away. And one of the changes from the Civil War is now they counted them all and had that many more white people voting in Congress from the South and representing 100% of the blacks, but not really representing. So the stuff that's going on now down in Georgia and Florida, in fact, I went down in December to drive people to the polls for that special Senate election. And the stuff that they're doing in Georgia and Texas and those kind of places, it's not going to last. The demographics are going to overtake it. You know, the things that Jefferson did that I disagree with, but what he started, it's now our dream. 100 years after he died, black women and white women got the vote. He never imagined that, but he started it. And lots of other things that I'm not going to live to see are still going to happen here.
Do you know what that might be? Anything, one thing in particular?
Well, the chief thing that I could think of was when I was 20 years old. I'm now 76. I taught at the Medgar Evers School in Chicago. I thought, by the time I'm 75, all this racial stuff is going to be history. Well, that was too optimistic, but it's gotten somewhat better, and it will get more better, and it will continue to get better. And a friend of mine who is African American, who is now chairman of our school board in Fairfax County, and she's leading the way in lots of things. And, that wouldn't have happened in Virginia when I moved there 40 years ago.
I do not think so. My father is from Virginia.
Well, we did some things in Northern Virginia, but I got to tell you, part of the solution in Virginia is in Tidewater, the woman who is the vice chair of the state party, and she is a fire breather. And for me, that's one of the highest things I can say about a woman, except for teacher. No, I can't think of it. She's been chair there for 40 years, or vice chair of the state party for 40 years. But she pretty much leads the black mafia down in Tidewater, and they're the granddaughters of the women, the geniuses from Hidden Figures.
Okay, do you want to talk for a little bit?
So,
that's not her last name, isn't Lucas, is it? She's a state senator.
No. She's not an office holder. She's no. There's several black legislators from down there that are very good. I don't think she holds an office, but she's been vice chair of the state party. I mean, you could ask Margot, who's chair of the 8th District Committee, who that woman is.
You have had touched so many people's lives and helped direct change. That's
God, I hope so. Well, my dad's father died a few months after he was born, and nobody knew his history, except he was 6 years old and he came over here during the famine. And he went to Northern Illinois, was a very successful farmer. Ireland, yeah, during the genocide. And by the 1880s, he was a county supervisor there. And when I interviewed my dad's oldest sister with a tape recorder for about 3 days, she did not know that he was a public official. And so I went back, and the county is Lee County, and the county seat is Dixon, and maybe it's because of Reagan, because he's from Dixon. The whole basement of the city library is the daily newspaper on microfilm from 1831. So all the stuff about my grandfather, he was the only Democrat elected in that county to anything for 80 years. And they wrote newspapers differently then than they do now. And they were just floored by the things that he did when they had a recession, trying to help the cannery workers who were mostly Scandinavians and the farm laborers who were mostly Irish. And the white Protestants there didn't give a damn about any of them. And I brought this to my dad and said, we didn't know anything about your dad, but obviously we didn't fall far from that tree. So,
did you write a book? That's quite a story.
Well, actually I have a cousin who turned out to be a better genealogist than I did. She has a 500-page history of our family that's now at the Library of Congress.
Oh.
So she's a much better writer than I am.
want to thank you for this interview. I could
And-
talk to you for hours because there's so many more questions and stories I want to know about.
Well, I don't know if I'm I mean, you asked me one question, and I haven't shut up since, so I don't know whether I really
because
answered your
like I
question
said,
or
I
not.
could talk to you for hours and I could ask some very detailed questions. But I'm going to reserve the right, with your permission,
Certainly.
to call you again.
You bet.
I will tell you.